going on, everybody? Welcome to the first ever Week 18 edition of the DFS Dose Late Night live stream. It's a great day to be alive up in New York, Joey. Sports betting hit, and we are up and we are stuck. Let's go.
Yeah, bro. Shout out to DraftKings, Caesars, and FanDuel. They ran some crazy promos today, just trying to compete with each other. I mean, obviously, we knew that was going to happen, but came out of today with I don't know. I want to say almost a G to bet with tomorrow.
Just free.
Just like 350 on DK. I got like 200 on FanDuel and like 450 on Caesars, just off free money.
Beautiful.
And that means we're gonna lose it all. But no cap though. For some reason, I do run a little bit better with betting than with GPPs. For some reason, even though I put more time and effort into DraftKings.
Why? How do you run on GPPs?
Oh, it's the stone worst. No shot.
Is Justin Fields
being absolutely talked about today? Not because he's not playing.
What up, Dex? Do you guys like Cooper Kupp to go over 11.5 and over 135 to hit the records? I do. I think he does. What do you think? I don't know if I would bet it, but I would definitely play him on DraftKings. I mean, we'll get to it, but I'm all over the Rams 49ers game for tournaments this week. I love it.
Incentive week special. They have. Look at this. Stephon Diggs over 5.5. Yes, at minus 150.
Wait. I'm confused. There we go.
There we go. Right here. I mean, minus 150, that's a lot. So I don't know. But this is a stone lock. Right.
I mean, just use it to boost, right? Boost the odds on any other bet because it's hitting.
Yeah. No, it's 100% hitting. They do have the records on here as well, but I'm not sure where to find that at. But anyways, yeah, I definitely love Cooper Kupp this week, and I definitely love Stephon Diggs this week.
As do I. And Stephon Diggs, who you and I talked about as cash game consideration, is going to be, I mean, he's going to be 5% on this week. It's a beautiful week to play Stephon Diggs in tournaments, in every lineup. He's going to smash. Is it a 3 RB week in cash? Yeah, it is. Definitely.
Yep.
You want to just jump into the cash breakdown?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting week for cash games. I mean, we'll talk about quarterbacks first, go in order here. And at the quarterback position, I think there's really two guys that are cash viable this week. And that is Tyler Huntley, who is 5,700, and Taysom Hill, who is 6,200. You're just getting a pretty great rushing floor out of Huntley and Taysom Hill, $500 apart. Honestly, I think I prefer Taysom. Maybe that's a hot take. I definitely think Taysom is a little bit safer than Huntley. And, we saw last week, even though it was against a pretty formidable Rams defense, they're pretty solid, that the floor can be lower with Huntley. He is a backup quarterback. And this Ravens offense just hasn't been that great recently, in my opinion. So I will take Taysom Hill, who we know is just going to have a lot of the rushing equity in that Saints offense, in a great matchup against the Falcons in a must-win game for the Saints.
I agree. It's Taysom for me this week in cash. I wouldn't hate going down to Huntley if you need that 500 because salary's actually really tight this week. Surprisingly so for a final week of the season. Usually these weeks are just flushed with cheap value. And there are some of those guys this week, but I don't trust them, man. I don't trust the Equinemius St. Browns of the world. I'm not playing these dudes, period. So I don't know. Maybe you need to save that 500 to go down to Huntley, but I prefer Taysom. We said it at the beginning of the week. I haven't changed my mind. I think it's Taysom and cash.
Yep, I'm with you 100%. Although Tyler Huntley is projecting a little bit better than Taysom from a value perspective, just because he is a little cheaper. So if you really are in a pinch and you need that 500, Huntley's a fine cash game option. But I think this is an easy pay down at quarterback week for cash games.
Yeah, and I mean, Josh Allen, great play. Kyler Murray, great play. I'm interested in both of them for tournaments. And then those are going to be the 4 highest owned quarterbacks on the slate, rightfully so. I think that you keep your core relatively tight. At least that's what I plan to do. I'm going to be playing Allen. I'm going to be playing Murray in GPPs. Who are some of the other names that you're interested in for tournaments this week?
Yeah, I think that some of these guys get taken out of consideration because of benching concerns. And obviously that's Rodgers, who I think Matt LaFleur came out and said that the starters are going to play some, but I doubt they play like more than a quarter against the Lions. So you can't play any of the Packers starters. Maybe like MVS or I don't know, Patrick Taylor are interesting for the Packers, but nonetheless, I think you should just stay away.
I mean, St. Brown's going to be chalk. Equinemius,
Is
not
he?
not Amon-Ra. He's going to be owned. He's going to be over 10, 15%.
Yeah, he's 3K. I mean, I think that's an easy fade for me.
Easy fade.
But yeah, back to quarterbacks. I think Kyler is a pretty great GPP play this week. He is projecting to be the highest owned quarterback on the slate just because the price tag is very cheap for a player of Kyler's caliber, and his floor ceiling combo is probably like the best on this slate in terms of price. So at 7,400, I love Kyler this week. He's fine, but like I said, he's going to be very chalky. And other than that, man, I really have no interest in a lot of these quarterbacks. Like, I have no interest in Russ, Tannehill, Wentz, Cousins. Like, the upside is just so low, but I don't know. Do you have any leans? Do you have any insight? Any one of these cheap quarterbacks that are going to go off? Maybe Kirk Cousins or something?
Mm-mm. In fact, I think that game as a whole is being wildly overvalued, that Vikings-Bears game. This is a team with 2 dead coaches. Zimmer is out the door as soon as the game ends tomorrow. Nagy, I think you could say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, people want to play JJ. People want to play Allen Robinson as chalk. I mean, I know that he's cheap, but people are going to play Allen Robinson as chalk. People are going to play Cole Kmet as chalk. I don't want to play that game at all, especially at boosted ownership. So that's definitely a take that I want to stand on. As far as some of the other quarterbacks I am interested in, I like Tannehill strictly in skinny stacks with AJ Brown. I think that there are scenarios where he goes off. I know that he hasn't done it very often this season, but they are playing for the bye. I think this is a team that could really use the bye, rest some of their guys for an extra week. If they win, they get the bye in their hands. They can do whatever they want against Tennessee. And we know that if Tannehill snaps, we know it's almost always going to be going through AJ Brown. So I like that. It's a good matchup. Clear bring back in Brandon Cooks, who's not going to come with too much ownership. And the other guy that I'm interested in is Stafford at 6,700. It's been pretty shaky for the Rams offense over the past couple of weeks. They've been getting it done, but they do need to win this game to win the division. I think that they want to go out in the regular season on a high note. Obviously, we have all the Cooper Kupp stuff in play. I don't know, man. I really like it. Plus, on the other side of the ball, the 49ers are highly incentivized. So I think that there's a good chance the Rams get pushed. Mm-hmm. It's my favorite game to target this week. And I don't think you can play Lance or Jimmy on the other side just because, I mean, the way that I'm reading the situation is that I think both guys get a little bit of run in this game. So if you're getting exposure to a full-blown game stack, I think it's Stafford. I think you play Kupp, and then, outside of that, Odell's going to be low-owned. Van Jefferson, who you talked about on the podcast, is one of your favorite tournament plays. He's going to be low-owned. Higbee might be mildly owned, but nothing crazy. I like all of those guys to add as Stafford doubles, and you can bring it back with Kittle, who's an amazing play, Debo, who I think is a good play. Really, really like targeting this game for tournaments tomorrow.
Yeah, I definitely love the Rams, and, you said it. They've kind of been underperforming, especially Stafford. You could see it right here in the game log. But on a QB slate like this, I think Stafford is definitely viable at one of his cheapest price tags of the season this week, 6,700, and the stacking partners have some of the highest ceilings on the slate, and Cup, OBJ, his ceiling is kind of high, and Vans is pretty decent as well. So there's a lot of people to pair Stafford with. I definitely am playing a lot of Stafford tomorrow. Josh Allen is probably my favorite though. Like the Bills are just gonna pounce the Jets. Like they are going to beat the brakes off the Jets at home. They have to win the division. If they get up big, maybe they bring in some backups. But if they're getting up big, Josh Allen scoring like 4 touchdowns, right? Everything's running through him, unless Devin Singletary vultures. So Josh Allen, 8,100, pairing with Stephon Diggs. I think that's the Millie Maker mini stack, to be honest.
Allen to
Diggs.
Are you doubling it up?
Yeah. You can. If Josh Allen gets there through the air, definitely 2 of the Bills are also getting there for sure. I think that Cole Beasley is okay. He's 4,800. Gabe Davis, I think, is a little overpriced for his role, but is Sanders okay? Sanders is doubtful. So
I like Gabe.
That definitely helps. Yeah, I just think Gabe is a tad overpriced. Like if he was like 4,400, I kind of would be more interested. But 4,900 is still pretty cheap price tag, nonetheless. So yeah, I definitely think Bills, Josh Allen with Diggs, and or Gabe Davis could easily be the GPP winner tomorrow.
That's as far as my quarterback pool goes. It's Allen, it's Murray, it's Stafford, maybe a Tannehill lineup or 2, and then you can consider Taysom and Huntley as well. But I think the ownership's going to be pretty high on those guys. I'd like to find a way off. I mean, it's not so bad that you can't play them, but I mean, those 6 guys are the only guys I'm really considering. I'm not going to be playing Kirk. Don't really have too much interest in Russ Wilson. I don't think he replicates what he did against the Lions last week. Wentz, you already talked about. No, thank you. I don't know, man. Anybody else you want to mention at quarterback before we move on?
Now, I think my pool for this week is just going to be Allen, Murray, Stafford, and Taysom, pretty much.
Yeah.
I am interested in Brady doubles, but like there's the risk that Bruce Arians takes them out, especially if they get up. There's obviously it's a tougher matchup a little bit. I mean, they kind of blew out the Panthers 2 weeks ago. But Brady, as you can see, only had 14 points, even though, threw the ball 30 times. There are some contract incentives in play for Brady and Gronk, and then Mike Evans needs 50 yards for another 1,000-yard season. So they're definitely going to throw the ball. And obviously Brady does have a high ceiling just as a pure pocket passer. But I think it's kind of hard to go there with Kyler $100 less and Josh Allen only $600 more. And I think it's more certain that they're going to play the whole game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I can't I don't personally believe Brady's going to play more than, 2 quarters, 2.5 quarters. So I don't want to pay it.
They're definitely going to start, and they're probably going to play a half.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Cowboys won. So if the Bucks lost, if the Bucks lose tomorrow, the Cowboys technically could jump above them, whatever. I don't really think they care about that, to be honest.
Second seed doesn't mean what it used to.
Yeah. So I think Bucks guys play a half. They get their bonuses, records, whatever, and move on. And the backups come in.
How do you guys like DK Sportsbook, Joey?
It's good. I think it's in terms of promos, they definitely have a lot of promos, especially because New York is going to be, I think, the number 1 market. It has to be, right? There's 8 million of us that live in New York State.
And we're all angry. We're all degenerates.
These books are salivating at the mouth to get all of these customers.
They're just throwing out. I mean, they're throwing money. I'm taking it.
I bet $5 on the Chiefs money line to win 98 cents just to get that $200 free bet. But the way DraftKings does it with the free bets is kind of dumb. Like FanDuel, top tier with the promo. Like they gave us $100 in promo just for signing up before it launched. $100 in promo, and then they gave us those 2 free bets, which turned into $200 real dollars. Like I could go and withdraw it right now, which is sick. Like there's no rollover. And then Caesars, like that Caesars promotion is nutty. I've never seen anything like it. And I've been fucking illegally betting for like 6 years. Okay. I've never seen a site give a $3,000 deposit match plus a free $300. Like I just made an account this morning at 10 a.m. $300 right in my account. And then they gave a promo bet too. They gave the Knicks to score a point and you win $100 or whatever.
Damn, but I haven't made my Caesars account yet. I'll have to get on that in the morning.
Yeah, and then haven't really messed with Bet Rivers, which is the 4 sports book, because they really didn't do any promos or bonuses. Like they just did like a deposit match, but they're kind of smaller, so they can't afford to take all these L's like DK, FanDuel, and Caesars.
Couple hundred up just from signing up. You gotta love it.
Yeah, it's crazy, but the apps I will say are pretty bad. Like
yeah, I'm not impressed with the. I mean, in particular, just Jared asked, DK Sportsbook seems like usually I really like DraftKings UI, but I'm more partial so far to FanDuel.
FanDuel's sports betting app is better than DraftKings
significantly.
Yes, for sure. And I hate how it fucking logs you out every time.
Oh my god, dude.
Bro, save the information and log me back in. I don't need to log in every goddamn time.
And they send you an email every time too.
Yeah, bro.
Hey, you just access your account. I know.
All right.
I know. Okay.
We're just hyped that New York, we finally got it.
I mean, we've been waiting years for this.
I've been
years.
Like I said, illegally betting since I was 18 in college on Bet Online and fucking I forgot the other ones, but like Jesus, finally.
I love it though. I love it. Definitely hype. Definitely going to be talking about it a lot. Let's transition back into DFS though. Aaron brings up a point about Jonathan Taylor, who is in a smash spot, but I feel like there's too much running back value to go there. Are you guys paying up for running back or wide receiver? So this is the thing that I'm still stuck on for this week. Honestly, I haven't made up my mind as to which direction I'm going to go in. I have the utmost confidence that Jonathan Taylor snaps tomorrow. You know, I don't think this whole, the Colts haven't been able to win in Jacksonville in like 7 straight games or whatever. I don't think that matters. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to obliterate the Jags tomorrow. I mean, just look at this, man. 5 straight weeks of over 100 yards rushing. Jacksonville's not going to be able to stop him. And in terms of value, JT is still projecting as one of the best values on the slate, even with the plethora of 6K guys that we have. I don't know, man. I think Taylor is firmly one of the best cash game plays on the week. And I don't know. How do you feel about it? Do you have a lean as to whether or not you're going to go there in cash or just live in the mid range?
I mean, it's definitely hard not to play JT against the Jaguars. When the Colts are 15.5 point favorites or 14.5 as it stands right now. The Colts have a 29.25 implied team total, which is the highest out of any team on the slate. So it's definitely hard to fade them. But like Aaron said, there's a ton of running back value, right? And I'm going to just defer to what I said on the pod. Realistically, what is the probability that JT kills you when he's 9,300, his most expensive tag of the season? Like, what is the likelihood of that happening? If it's less than 50%, it's probably like you can get away with it, I think.
I think you can get away with it. That being said, some of these running backs in the mid-range that are projecting well, I think that there are paths to failure. And let's talk about these mid-range guys like James Conner, who was not really on our radar when we did the podcast, is emerging as one of the most popular options. He's been battling injuries all year. Chase Edmonds is going to be out, so he should be a workhorse in a smash spot at home. one of the top 3 implied team totals, a bunch of motivation for the team. I do like James Conner. I think that he's probably my favorite option of this 6K range at this point. With Sony, who is the guy we talked about, Cam Akers is going to play. We don't know how much, probably not too much, but it's definitely something that I think is a cause for concern. Deontay Foreman is 5,700. He's going to be popular, doesn't catch passes. If things don't go as scripted, he could have a disappointing game. Devin Singletary, I'm not super thrilled about the idea of playing Devin Singletary at 6K as the most owned running back on the slate. So as much as I like him, but I don't know, man. How do you feel about this range? Who are the guys you're interested in? Who are the guys you want to fade?
Yeah, James Conner does look really, really good right now. A home favored running back on a team that kind of does have something to play for in the division. And, the Rams could easily lose to the 49ers. They lost to them earlier in the season. And I think in recent years, the Niners have kind of had the Rams number.
Shanahan has had McVay's number.
Yeah, exactly. So this could be the difference of playing on the road their first game or playing at home. James Conner 6,300. I'm totally fine with that, but obviously there's the risk of injury, and I don't think he is 100%. So you could definitely get away with fading him, especially in GPPs, but in cash, I guess he's fine. I don't know. I think like Sony and Singletary are good plays. Singletary, 6K. It's pretty disgusting. Just like, I don't know. I have some bias towards Devin Singletary. Like I don't think he's that great. But it is the Jets, the Bills, home favored. They're favored by a lot. What, like 15 points or so?
16 and a half.
16 and a half at home against the Jets. They got to win.
Weather is definitely a concern in Buffalo right now. Trust me, I just came from there. 18 fucking inches of snow I had to dig my car out of yesterday, bro. That shit's no joke.
Yeah. Kind of lucky that we live in the ROC.
Yeah.
We don't get as much snow as Buff. But yeah, Singletary's fine. Great matchup. He's been getting a bunch of touches, as you could see right here. So I don't really have a lean on him. I think he's cash viable for sure. Sony, are you worried at all about Cam Akers?
I think Sony still touches the ball 20 times.
Yeah,
do I foresee a scenario where maybe they give Cam Akers a couple touches near the goal line? Give him something to feel good about a little bit coming back. This man is a fucking superhero coming back off this injury so quickly. I don't know. They love Cam Akers. I wouldn't be shocked if they gave him a goal line opportunity or two. And also the matchup is tough, man. San Francisco is a good defense, right? I don't know. It's hard for me to play Sony at the same price tag as Singletary, personally. Matchups included. Return of Cam Akers included. Weather concerns in Buffalo included.
Yeah, the Niners have given up the 6th least amount of rushing yards per game over the last 4 weeks of the season. So it definitely is a difficult matchup for Sony. But like you said, he's probably going to touch the ball 20 times, has a good amount of pass catching upside. I think projections definitely prefer Singletary to Sony, but Sony's still going to be a little bit chalky, I think. So, yeah, I guess I would go with Singletary there. And yeah, Aaron says, how would you rank the mid-price running backs? Connor, Gibson, Michelle, Singletary, Vaughn. I think Gibson and Vaughn are pretty strong plays this week. But if I had to rank them, me personally, I'd go Connor, Singletary,
Sony.
Yeah, honestly, I might have Gibson over Sony, but
really,
yeah, it's close. I would go Sony, Gibson, and then Vaughn.
So mine is also Connor and Singletary as the top 2. I'll probably have Sony 3, Gibson 4, Vaughn 5. I'm not going to be playing Vaughn in cash, and I'm probably not going to be playing him, period. I just don't love the spot for the Bucks offense right now with the unknowns all around the board as far as who's going to play. But, the guy that we haven't even mentioned at all is David Montgomery, who he's priced a little bit above these guys, but he is a standout play at 6,800 this week. He's just been, besides last week where he only got two targets, he's been a monster in the receiving game as well as getting the bulk of the touches on the ground. I really do like David Montgomery. He's the one bear that I'm willing to play this week.
Yeah, I mean, this game is in a dome. David Montgomery, as you can see here, has been a total workhorse over the last 6-7 weeks of the season. Has a crazy target share with Andy Dalton / Nick Foles in the starting lineup, and Andy Dalton will start this game. So on the road against this terrible Minnesota defense, two teams that have nothing to play for. They're just going to play for fun, shits and giggles. Maybe get some fantasy points. I don't mind David Montgomery. I think he is a pretty great play. You could definitely go there in cash. You could definitely go JT, D-Mont, and then pick one of like Singletary, Sony, etc., which is probably the way a lot of people are going to go. And yeah, he's a great play. It's just like you said earlier, maybe people are overvaluing this game quite a bit, especially on two dead teams with two coaches, like you said, that are basically out the door at this point. Can we expect fantasy fireworks from this game?
I mean, one of my favorite expressions of yours is, trash plus trash doesn't equal treasure. And I think that's important to remember with a lot of ownership in this game.
Yeah, but there are some stars on both sides,
For sure.
and David Montgomery and Justin Jefferson. So I think they're both great plays.
At the running back position in that game, do you like Dalvin on the other side? I mean, he's kind of caught some steam, 7,800. It's not a cheap price tag, but it is decent savings off of Jonathan Taylor, 1,600 cheaper or 1,500 cheaper. Sorry. Do you like Dalvin this week? Playing for his recently deceased dad, as noted by him.
All right. I definitely think that it's a great spot for Dalvin. RIP to his dad. That's unfortunate to hear. But the Bears have given up the most rushing yards to opposing running backs over the last 4 weeks of the NFL season. So it's a great spot at home. No Adam Thielen in this game. So Dalvin Cook's going to project really well. He's going to project as a pretty solid value, even at 7,800. And, I think he has the same upside as Jonathan Taylor. And you're just getting a $1,500 discount, and you're getting some good ownership discounts as well. So I think he's great.
He is. So in terms of other running backs in tournaments, there's two guys that really stand out to me this week. One that we talked about, extensively on the podcast, who remains to be, one of the best leverage plays on the slate is Alvin Kamara. Man, I'm stoked to play Alvin Kamara this week at 8,300. I think he's going to be significantly less owned than JT. He's going to come in at even half the ownership of Dalvin Cook. It's a great matchup. It's a must-win game. He's been involved as a pass catcher as of late, even with Taysom Hill in there. They have to. They just don't have the talent, in terms of receiving options. They've got to get Kamara involved. They're playing for their playoff hopes. This is the matchup to do it in a dome. I absolutely love Alvin Kamara this week, man. I think that he's going to be the highest scoring running back on the slate.
Oh, bold call right there. You heard it here, folks. Alvin Kamara, GPP winner, according to Ben.
He will be.
I definitely think he's a great play for sure. Obviously, the threat of Taysom there is really annoying to Kamara's upside, but I think these games like this earlier in the season with 10, 8 catches are definitely in the range of outcomes, even with Taysom Hill at quarterback. They just really have no pass catchers, and I think this is a game where they're going to feed their best player. Like they have to if they want to win and potentially get in the playoffs. And honestly, if I had to bet, I would bet the Saints to make the playoffs over the Niners. The Saints have a very easy path. They have to beat a trash Falcons team, albeit on the road, and then the Niners have to lose to the Rams. So
sounds pretty realistic to me, man.
Yeah, I mean, odds Vegas odds say that that's the most likely outcome. And if the Saints want to win, you got to feed Kamara. And I think Sean Payton knows that. So 8,300, he's a pretty great leverage play. Obviously, Taysom Hill hurts him, but I love Kamara. Bad idea to play Kamara and Taysom together?
I don't think it is necessarily. I would prefer to get max leverage in this situation where I'm playing Kamara, which would mean that Taysom fails and it's more rushing touchdowns for Kamara. But in a scenario where the Saints just put up a monster offensive game and they score 5 touchdowns, maybe 2 of them are Taysom, 3 of them are Kamara, I don't see why not.
Yeah,
I mean, the Millie was shipped last week by, a team that had Russell Wilson and Rashad Penny in it. It can happen. And Kamara is certainly a lot more involved as a pass catcher than Penny is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the theory, but team specific, I don't think Taysom and Kamara are getting there like Russ and Penny, specifically last week against the Lions. Just because I don't think there's a ceiling to Taysom's passing game, and we know there's a ceiling to Russ's passing game.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Saints' offensive ceiling in general, I don't think they're putting up 50 plus, which is what you need in that scenario.
That's fair.
So I think if you're playing Kamara, you just fade Taysom for max leverage.
Yeah, that's my main inclination.
So Damian Harris, is he going to play? That is the question. Because if Damian Harris is out, and we won't know because it's a 425 game. Where's my boy? Ramondre Stevenson. Where is he? I can't find him. Oh, he's 5,900. He's priced up. Nobody's going to play him, I don't think, even if Damian Harris is out. And I think it's a pretty good spot against the Miami Dolphins. And we know when the Patriots are up and they're, projected spread, or they're projected to win by 6 points according to Vegas, they want to run the ball. And Ramondre Stevenson would be a workhorse in that scenario. So I would have some interest in him. The Dolphins have been, the 6th worst run defense over the last month of the season, giving up over 100 or so yards on the ground. And what are they giving up in terms of fantasy points? They're only giving up 19 fantasy points per game over the last month, which isn't great, but I think Stevenson is pretty good play if Damian Harris is out.
It's pretty hard to, pre-build that in, but you have Singletary for 100 more that you can build into your lineups and pivot for a bunch of leverage, since Singletary is going to be one of, if not the highest owned running backs on the slate. So, you put Singletary in your lineup. If you're behind, that's an easy pivot for leverage if Harris is out. Same thing with James Conner, who's 400 more and also playing in the late window. So just something to keep an eye on. If Damian Harris gets ruled out, Stevenson could be an elite late swap option.
Yep, I agree. So GPP winner at running back, Kamara.
I got one more.
One more.
It's ugly. It's nasty.
Let's hear it.
Michael Carter. 5K.
Against the Bills?
Against the Buffalo Bills, the team that has gotten trounced on the ground multiple times, especially multiple times in the last month. Jonathan Taylor did it. Damian Harris did it twice. It's going to be a weather game. Could see the Jets try and do the same thing. He's had multiple good games this year. He's arguably been one of the most explosive players on their offense. I don't know if the ceiling is necessarily there, but it could be. I mean, he's had at least one monster game, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like 130 spot earlier in the year. No, am I tripping? Yeah, he had the 32 when he had an ass ton of targets, as we know is in his range.
Yep.
I kind of like Carter this week, just as I would probably play it in a correlated piece with the Bills. And as you mentioned, and I agree, Allen to Diggs is my favorite correlation, my favorite stack of the week. Why not throw a low-owned Michael Carter at 5K in there?
I mean, I can't play Carter. Like,
you can't play a Jet?
Physically unable to put a Jet in my lineup, and it obviously backfired last week.
It might backfire this week.
Very well could, but I would be just willing to fade the Jets offense in general in this spot, traveling on the road in a weather game, second divisional game against the Bills. The Bills do have a pretty tough defense, nonetheless, but they have been getting exploited on the ground. They've given up over 25 fantasy points per game to opposing running backs over the last month of the season. So it is a good spot for Carter.
Anybody else you're interested in at running back? It's pretty much my list would be, the guys we've talked about. We didn't really mention Elijah Mitchell. I think he's a great play as well. We know that when he's healthy, he's going to get damn near every snap, and he does not have an injury designation coming into this game. Even when he does have an injury designation, he's literally the workhorse. And, Jimmy G, I think, is going to start this game. That's what the inclination seems to be. And, that's 8, 9, 10 rush attempts that Trey Lance isn't getting. So I think that's a good thing for Eli Mitchell.
Yep, I agree 100%. And nobody's going to play him because he's projecting worse than the players he's around. And there's just a bunch of good running back plays this week. So it's really hard to have a favorite, to be honest. And a lot of these guys are projecting very closely to each other. And a lot of these guys are going to be owned. But I do think the pivots are Mitchell, Stevenson, if Harris is out. That both of those guys look really, really good as tournament pivots. And, we've seen it this season that the ceilings on those two specific players are pretty high. And the ownership leverage would be off the charts.
And in a negative game script, Mitchell can catch passes. We've seen it a couple times this year. So I like Mitchell a lot as an ownership pivot in that game, and Kamara as an ownership pivot off of JT and Cook. So those are the main stands that I'm going to be taking at running back. Wide receiver, it's pretty ugly this week, dude. Surprisingly, for a 13-game slate, it's not too much that stands out to me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got the top of the player pool with all of the studs. Cooper Kupp, I guess we could discuss because he is at 9,700 as everybody could see, and it's his most expensive price tag of the season. So for cash games specifically, are you jamming in JT and Kupp? That's what the people want to know. Are we on team jam them in, or are we on team fade one of Kupp or JT and try and build a more balanced cash game lineup this week?
As of right now, and this term has been gaining a lot of traction on Twitter this week. Shout out to Peter Overzet. My cash game shell does not have Cooper Kupp in it. I'll say that. It does have Jonathan Taylor in it.
I think
that being said, Cooper Kupp is a goddamn amazing play. I don't want to say anything crazy because Kupp could. I mean, I think Kupp gets the records. It's just kind of going back to what you said. Like, what does he need to get to kill you in this spot? 40, 35? Does 35 even kill you at 9,700?
Yeah, I think if he drops 35 or more, you're probably going to need him. But it's the same thing with JT. It's the same thing I said on the podcast, which everybody should be listening to every Thursday. What is the probability that Kupp, at his most expensive price tag of the season, burns you at 9,700? If the answer is less than 50%, I think you can fade him in cash. And as it stands right now in terms of projections say to play Kupp over JT if you're choosing one. In terms of DraftKings projection and value based on salary. So I think I would rather play Kupp than JT. I've kind of been on that train all season as they've been priced up in the last couple of weeks, and they've both been on the main slate recently. So I think I would just play Kupp and fade JT just because there's more running back value than wide receiver value on the slate. You could jam in 20 touches from 3 running backs, 6,300 and less.
Yeah.
But you can't jam in 170 yards and 3 touchdowns and 15 catches at $6K at a wide receiver. So that's just something to think about for the people out there.
That is something to think about. You don't think Brandon Cooks is going to hit that?
I mean, you got to respect Cooks. Like, I talk a lot of shit about Cooks, but I respect him. Like, he just goes out there consistently gets his 1,000 yards with terrible quarterback play.
Every
All
team, doesn't
this
matter
year.
what team you're on.
I mean, he's had a pretty good run of quarterbacks. I'm not going to lie, with Breeze, Brady, Watson before this year. So not bad quarterback play only this year, but Cooks
Brady.
does get it done. Well, he played with Brady.
He played with Brady, Breeze, Watson, and there was one more good one too.
He played for.
Oh no, it was Goff. Goff
It
wasn't
was
good.
it was Goff. I mean, Goff was good that season.
Yeah, that season was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what wide receivers are we prioritizing outside of Cup? I mean, you want to talk about it? We talked about it on the podcast. This is if there was ever a week, I think it's this week.
I need to pull up his Prize Picks prop because if it's less than 5.5, like
they are cowards. They have not put up his reception prop.
Fucking cowards.
They're absolute cowards. I checked it this morning and I was like, oh, all right, maybe it's just too early. Check it again right before the show. You go under receptions on Prize Picks. You type in Stephon Diggs' name. Nothing comes up.
Yeah. They only have his receiving yards or touchdown. Wow.
Disgraceful.
Yeah, no, but Diggs 7,800, pair him with Josh Allen, sail to the abs, like to the bank. Like, God. He needs 6 catches to get 1.5 milli. And he needs 230 yards to get another 1.5 milli. Obviously, he's probably not going to get the yards, but it's a great spot against the Jets. Hopefully, the weather isn't too bad, which would just totally suck. But either way, I think you could preload Diggs with 6 DK points minimum.
Yeah. He actually needs that money. He got his Ferrari stuck in the snow the other day. I don't know if you caught that.
I saw that.
Yeah. He got his shit stuck.
First of all,
he needs to get it detailed.
Why is he driving a Ferrari in the middle of a Buffalo winter? Like, let's use some common sense here. This dude needs to get like a Range Rover or like a truck or something, like a Ford.
Or how about some winter tires, bro? Come on.
Yeah, but Diggs 7,800. I think he's a great play. The projections don't agree, but I think Josh Allen will do whatever it takes to get him the incentives that he needs. They are best friends by like all accounts, all videos and production on the field. Like they're really close. So I think he gets him the 6 catches, and I think Diggs has a pretty great game. And I'm surprised more people are on it. Maybe the math suggests that he's not a better play than Justin Jefferson, who's 300 more, and Justin Jefferson is kind of going to be like the chalkiest like wide receiver.
It makes sense to me because the ball can get spread around a lot. And when projections are, accounting for that, they're looking at what's happened over the course of the season. They're looking at, market share of team targets, which is not going to favor Diggs. Whereas with Justin Jefferson, especially with Thielen out, you can just bank on so much of it going to Justin Jefferson. But the projections aren't contextualizing what we're talking about. Maybe it's fishy to be all in on this narrative, but I think that you start Stephon Diggs off with a floor of 6 catches. I think it's going to be Josh Allen's mission to get his boy paid in this spot, not to mention exploitable matchup. Bill should be able to do whatever they want in this spot.
I mean, yeah, Diggs already torched the Jets this year.
He did. And
for his best game of the season.
For 162 receiving yards. And he's like 230 away from another 1.5 million. So you're telling me, what if he has a monster first half and he's got like 150 yards in the first half and he needs like 80 in the second half to get another 1.5 million? You think that he's not going into the halftime huddle and being like, yo, Josh, let me get a couple
Well, at
more.
that point, it'd be McDermott. Will McDermott let him go back in the game, especially if they're up? And, they're going to have to play next week, probably a home playoff game.
I mean, they look over at the scoreboard and the Patriots are winning. You're damn right that they're going to play.
But they see that, Tyreek Hill got hurt today. Travis Kelce got hurt today. Do they want to risk that, going into the playoffs? Like Diggs is their best offensive player outside of Josh Allen. I think if he's close, obviously they're just going to give it to him, but he probably finishes the game with 7, 8 catches, 100+ yards, and hopefully a touchdown. And honestly, I think that'd be good enough to get you there in GPPs. But nonetheless, he's a great play, in my opinion. Justin Jefferson is a great play. 8,100. Like you said, the Vikings offense is just so consolidated, and that's what you want in fantasy. So I wasn't really on it this week or on it earlier in the week. We weren't on it. We didn't really discuss him much on the podcast, but he's projecting as like the best wide receiver value on the slate, and he should have his way with this Bears secondary. Like he could go out with a bang for sure.
Definitely could. It's going to be really highly owned, man.
Yeah, I think that people will probably play Kupp over Justin Jefferson in cash. Just because obviously the Kupp has the record narratives working for him, whatnot. But I think Justin Jefferson is, I don't know, he's at that like ownership level where it's like he's not a bad play, but he's not like a good fade. If that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
he's a good play and a good fade
right.
at like his projected ownership. I don't know.
It's a nuanced discussion. I hear what you're saying. In that same sort of realm, AJ Brown is sort of going to be in that sort of ownership range as well, where it's not sneaky. The ceiling is very high. The floor is very low. You're kind of, I don't know. You need him to have a monster game at his ownership to really separate, but you are getting a significant discount off of, Kupp, almost 3K less than Kupp, 1,100 less than Justin Jefferson, and easily has the ceiling, especially in this matchup in a game where the Titans should be going all out for the number 1 seed.
Yeah. I mean, top 5 ceiling on the slate, 7K against Houston. Like, it's a great spot for AJ Brown. I prefer Kupp or Jefferson, but they're more expensive. So
yeah,
definitely going to be mixing in AJ Brown quite a bit this week. But for cash games, which we're known as the cash game guys around here, and you got to save money. Do you like
Wesley an
brings up
option?
Wesley? He's 4,100. I think that's pretty thin. I mean, I mentioned him on the pod, but I don't know if you could do. I don't know if you could do it. People are gonna play Allen Robinson at 4K. Like, what cheap wide receiver are you jamming in your lineup this week to make everything fit?
I don't know, dude. They're all so trash. Like, am I bugging? Like, I don't want to play Allen Robinson.
I mean,
he might be
so.
the one. He might be the one because he's 4K and he's like arguably, a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL in terms of talent. But he hasn't done shit all season. He has 2 games with double-digit fantasy points. Is this going to be the week? 2 dead teams playing each other with 2 head coaches halfway out the door? It can't be, right? It can't be.
I mean, Allen Robinson projecting for top 5 ownership.
Easiest tournament fade of the week. Same thing I said about Braxton Berrios, who you needed to have in every lineup last week. So,
yeah, I mean, 4K. He doesn't need much to get it done in terms of GPPs. In cash, the floor is just so low, and the ceiling is just so low. Like, honestly, it just seems like he doesn't even want to be out there. It seems like he just doesn't want to play for the Bears. He's ready for the season to be over, go in the offseason. He's probably going to get a decent bag now. He would have got, a way bigger bag had he had a good year.
Yeah, had he had 500 yards on the season, I think he would have gotten paid.
Yeah. So I think he's just checked out. And I really have no interest in A-Rob. Honestly, I haven't really built any lineups just because I've been waiting for like the most amount of information, and that's going to come, probably tomorrow morning.
I will say jump in the Discord because I don't think that information is done flowing on this slate yet.
No, we're definitely going to get some information tomorrow morning for sure, and maybe we get some surprise inactives as well. But yeah, I mean, are you interested in like these cheap Packers wide receivers like Equinemius St. Brown? Like he's 4K, right? Or he's 3K. He's projecting for some decent ownership.
I don't know, man. Maybe it's like why would it be St. Brown and not like Amari Rogers or like Lazard? I don't know. I don't know, man. And especially like if St. Brown is getting a ton of run, aren't we talking about Jordan Love at that point too?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could play Jordan Love just because he sucks too. But
Well, I'm not saying play Jordan Love, but I'm saying that if St. Brown is out there for a majority of snaps, he's probably catching most of his balls not from Aaron Rodgers, right?
yeah, no, got a good point there.
So I don't know, man. I mean, I think it makes for an incredibly easy tournament fade, especially at ownership projections having them where they've got St. Brown at. Maybe you can go there in cash. I hope something better opens up though, because I don't feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, I mean, if St. Brown is 10+% owned in tournaments and cash games for that matter, I mean, God, do people just willingly want to burn their money this week?
People hate money.
I
It
don't
doesn't make
get it.
sense. I don't understand it.
Um, but you do need some value savings at wide receiver, so we gotta choose somebody. Maybe it's Marvin Jones, who has some contract incentives at play,
He
low key
does.
being slept on. I think he needs 4 catches. If he gets 4 catches, he'll get a pretty good bag. And I think he does have some yards at play as well, but I think that's kind of more unattainable. And the Jags are going to be losing in this game. So I think he's fine at 4,300, kind of not being talked about. Treadwell, 4,400. Been a pretty heavily targeted guy, 10 plus points, as you could see in 4 out of the last 5. It's obviously disgusting to play a Jags wide receiver, but I think I prefer some of these guys to Wesley. Honestly, I don't mind Wesley. I will say that. Like, I think you can go there in cash, but I prefer these guys to like A-Rob and St. Brown and whoever else is at the bottom of the player pool.
Yeah. I mean, it's nasty. I kind of like McLeod. I think I'm like the only person who is on him at all, but he's coming off of a bunch of target games. James Washington got added to the COVID list. I think Ray McLeod is going to be heavily involved against a, Ravens defense that's gotten torched with regularity all season.
Big Ben's last game.
Big Ben's last game. I don't know. It's nasty, but
low key, could make the playoffs. Technically, both teams. I think pending what happens in the Colts game, both teams could make the playoffs. Yep. So there is a little bit of motivation there, but most likely Big Ben's last game, I think he's going to want to go out with a bang, again, especially against the division rival in the Baltimore Ravens. So I could definitely see them just dropping Ben back a ton, just let him go out slinging it. Deontay Johnson, 7,600, solid play. Chase Claypool is a solid play. He's 5,100. He's one of my favorite tournament wide receivers as well. We obviously know the ceiling is high with Claypool. If he gets 9 to 10 targets, could work out, but obviously Big Ben is withered right now, and he's just going to throw the ball like 3 yards down the line of scrimmage. But the Ravens give up like the most big plays to wide receivers out of any secondary in the NFL. So I don't mind the Steelers, guys. In this range specifically, I think a lot of these guys are interesting, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Cooks, Christian Kirk, MPJ, Mooney. Do you have like a preference out of these guys?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think's the best cash play? Who do you think is the best tournament play? Let's hear it.
I think that the best cash play of this group is Christian Kirk. I think the best tournament play of this group is Brandon Cooks. And I will play Kirk in doubles with Kyler Murray. I think Wesley is going to have some ownership just because he's cheap and people are desperate to save salary this week. He's coming off a 2-touchdown game. AJ Green to me is, it's nasty, but he's low key. I think a really, really strong piece that goes in your Cardinal stacks because nobody's going to play AJ Green this week. Zach Ertz is going to be the chalkiest tight end on the slate. Christian Kirk is going to come with ownership. Wesley's going to have ownership. You can play, Murray with James Conner, by the way, going to be one of the highest owned plays on the slate. I think you could double Murray with Green and Kirk, and that's a solid double that I'm really interested in this week.
Yeah,
but for cash, it's Kirk for me in that group. He is the clear-cut wide receiver one with Hopkins out.
Yeah, I think you're playing Kirk and cash just because the floor, I think, is the highest out of these players for sure. Cooks is obviously a good tournament pivot. Amon-Ra St. Brown right now, according to projections, looks like the best tournament play of the bunch. You're getting him projected at, a top 3 value on the slate just behind Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp, and you're getting him at, around 10% ownership, which is going to be like half of Kupp, Jefferson, Christian Kirk, AJ Brown. So to projections, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the best play of the bunch in GPPs. How do you feel about him?
The price is getting a little bit out of control for me, but the production has been there, so it's justified. Yeah, I don't know, man.
You'd feel pretty sick to your stomach if you play him at his most expensive price tag of the season this week, and he puts up like an 8 ball. Like that'd be me, 100%. Like I look at the projections, I see the positive value, I see the ownership, like clear cut tournament play, 9 points.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just too stuck in my ways because I have not been playing St. Brown among this surge that he's been on, and now I'm like, do I want to play him now when he's almost 7K?
He's going to be facing backups. It's a good spot.
I know. He's probably going to get 12 targets again too.
And Goff's back, no?
Is he?
Goff is questionable.
Probable.
He expects Goff to play, which I think is obviously an upgrade over Boyle.
Damn, man.
Any interest in the Seahawks wide receivers? 6,900 for DK, 6,400 for Lockett. Games in a dome. I think it's one of the highest total games on the slate.
The highest total game.
Total game on the slate and no ownership.
I am absolutely interested in them. I'm interested in both of them. Not going to be playing the Seahawks stacks this week. I don't think they replicate what they did last week. But I definitely think that you play one of these guys on the bring back right now. I mean, this is based on absolute. Yeah, I do too. It's based on absolutely nothing. I just have a feeling it's Lockett this week. I don't know.
It was DK's week last week. Lockett this week, 100%.
Lockett's he's due.
Yeah, I mean, not to bring up last season or nothing, but he had his best game of the career against the Cardinals last year
when he dropped
50 points.
I recall because I didn't have him in any of my lineups.
But yeah, 6,400 for Lockett. I think he's a great tournament play this week. And honestly, I don't mind Seattle stacks, to be honest. If we think this game goes over the total of 48, the Seahawks are going to have to put up points. And I think Russ and Lockett and Metcalf and just the Seattle offense, they want to finish a poor season off strong. And, what better way to do that than going into Arizona and beating a division rival that could potentially win the NFC West. So I don't mind Seattle doubles. Obviously, it is more thin than Stafford doubles or, Josh Allen doubles, etc. But Lockett looks really, really strong this week, and it could easily be another DK game again, and he's 6,900. Looks like a great pivot off of AJ Brown.
Yep, I agree with all of that.
But it's just an ugly wide receiver week. As it stands right now, according to the projections that we have, there's only 10 wide receivers out of the entire player pool that are projecting at a 0 or above 0 value on the slate. So nobody's really going to project well. You're going to have to play some plays that you aren't comfortable playing. And, some of those guys are Lockett, Metcalf, MPJ, Pittman in a great spot against Jacksonville. Odell, Van Jefferson are some of my favorite tournament plays this week.
Do you like Julio at all? 5K? Leverage off of Foreman and AJ Brown. He's someone who stood out to me as a potential tournament play.
Yeah, I mean, it's thin, very thin. Just hasn't been what they had hoped. I have taken him in a couple playoff best ball drafts.
As
High key, like, because he's just a stone value right now, especially like on drafters.
He's free,
like legit free in playoff best balls. Julio Jones. So, I mean, I really don't have any interest in Julio. Like, if the Titans' pass game succeeds, it's going to go through AJ, and obviously we're both on AJ this week. But I think we should just sum it up for cash. I mean, we've been kind of talking a lot about GPPs, specifically for wide receiver, but for cash, for me, I think you're rolling Kupp, Kirk, and a cheap wide receiver, and I personally prefer Wesley, Marvin Jones, or Treadwell over Allen Robinson. Mm-hmm. Wow, I never thought I would say that in my life, but that's the route I would go.
Treadwell over Allen Robinson. It's
in 2021.
That's literally.
I'm playing, like, honestly, I think Laquan Treadwell's a better play than Allen Robinson.
Like, I want to make fun of you right now, but I agree. It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Right. The worst position of the week.
Would you go Bates and cash or pay up for Ertz? I'm not playing Zach Ertz as the highest owned tight end on the slate.
What's his price?
You got to scroll up to get it, and you're already at 5-1.
5,300. I mean,
he's getting a ton of targets.
He's going to get targeted a bunch, but the ceiling is so goddamn low.
I'm not playing him in cash. I'm not playing him, period.
Yeah, it's a good spot for Ertz. I don't mind him. I definitely would just prefer to pay down to Bates in that scenario. Sorry, I have the hiccups, unfortunately. But Bates is 3K. Don't mind him. I do prefer Komet to Bates.
I prefer Komet for cash.
Just for 400. The target floor is safer with Komet. As you can see here, he gets 5+ targets every week. Obviously,
I'll take my 5 targets at 3,400.
The floor is extremely low with Komet, and the ceiling.
The ceiling is low.
It is extremely low, but you can lock in 5 targets at 3,400. I don't really think there's anybody else lower than him in consideration. And for GPPs, I think you do have to pay up a little bit to like the Ertz Knox range.
I mean, I like Gronk in tournaments. Narrative is there with the incentives. He can earn up to 1.5 million. I think that he at least gets 2 of his bonuses.
Yeah. He's going to get the receptions and the yards. He needs 7 for 85. He's 100% getting that, I think.
I think so too. I also love George Kittle this week. Dude, Kittle is projecting for under 5% owned. 6,700. Must-win game. Pass volume should be up with Jimmy G in there. I like it. Man, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, George Kittle is always going to project a little bit poorly compared to some of these other tight ends, just because the Niners use him as a blocker so much. So he's not running as many routes as like a Travis Kelce or, Mark Andrews. And you could see it in the game log. Like the floor is actually really low with George Kittle. And 6,700, obviously you're paying up to be contrarian. I kind of just want to stay away just because if you're comparing the salary to the wide receivers, like in that range, like Metcalf, Lockett, AJ, Deontay, Diggs, they're all like very similar to to George Kittle. So I'd rather allocate the salary to
I mean,
the wide receiver position.
Diggs is 1,100 more. That's
What's 1,100?
It's fair.
They're just in the same tier, I should say.
Okay.
Like that tier of like a thought, like 65 to 75, 67 to 77. They're in the same tier. I'd rather allocate the salary to those guys, the guys at wide receiver.
Theoretically can find 30 points out of wide receivers in the 5 to 6K range. You can't find that. You can't find 30 plus anywhere at tight end outside of the top two guys. There's two players who have that at this position. It's Andrews and it's Kittle.
Yeah, just very expensive, especially for Mark Andrews. And, you just got to think in terms of ranges of outcomes, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
At 7,500, he needs 25 plus to really get you there. Backup quarterback that has fed Mark Andrews. Just can't really use that. But, at the end of the day, I'll take my chances betting against a 7,500 tight end in one of the lowest total games on the slate.
Do you like any of the mid-range guys, or Henry 4K, Higbee 4K?
Yeah, I definitely think this is probably where I'll end up in tournaments, and it's just more so a factor, especially with like Higbee part of a stack with Stafford looks good. Everett part of the game stack with Arizona, Seattle, which I think is probably being undervalued right now. That's probably the GPP game to target, Arizona, Seattle, as it stands right now.
The Arizona side is going to be owned. Murray, Kirk, Ertz all going to be owned. Connor going to be owned, but both Seattle players, well, all three, if you include Everett, are going to be low-owned contrarian pieces. AJ Green, Wesley.
Yep, and Penny, if you want to go the Rashad Penny route.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that Henry looks fine against Miami. I think that Higbee looks pretty good. Everett, contrarian piece on the Seattle side. I kind of like getting up to like this Knox wrench. Like Knox looks really good as part of Josh Allen doubles. Freiermuth, obviously 4,600. He's going to get targets, but Gronk looks like my favorite GPP option this week on DK. And he's going to be like under 5%. Well, I think Ben accidentally just... Oh, there's Ben. He's back. What happened?
I got this button on my mouse that it's the back button, and I accidentally hit that. Backed me out of the stream.
Damn. But yeah, tight end. I mean, Gronk is my GPP tight end of the week.
All right. What do you say? Do you want to talk about defense before we build a tournament lineup here?
I mean, not really.
I mean, I could care less about defense.
Yeah, I just play whatever one fits.
In tournaments, you can't play the Browns because they're going to be like 40%.
Yeah. In cash, you play Browns.
You lock the Browns. It's that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, Browns in cash, 100% lock against a backup quarterback and a bunch of backup players. In tournaments, I mean, these defenses like the Vikings, Bengals, I think Mayfield's out. Case Keenum is going to start. Baltimore against Big Ben. They could generate a pretty solid pass rush. Titans against Houston. Saints against the Falcons. The Saints are probably the best, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, you got the Bills at home in a weather game against Zach Wilson, whose favorite thing is turning the ball over.
Yeah. The Bills, I mean, they're going to smash the Jets.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they are. Pretty self-explanatory. Play whoever fits. Pay up to be contrarian when you have the salary for it. It's defense for you. I wish they would take it off DraftKings.
Yeah, that'd be lit.
All right. Let's build a milli-making winner lineup.
I mean, just preload that in.
Preload it in.
And we can lock in a defense.
Need a cheap defense.
Need a cheap but leverage defense this week. So as it stands right now, it's looking like we could go with the Titans or the Vikings as the leverage Ds at relatively cheap price tags, and they're both projecting pretty well.
What are the Vikings priced at?
2,900
All right, we could start there. I'm not mad if we start there.
against Andy Dalton. All right. Any preferred running backs? We are going to have to save some salary.
I mean, God, dude, I want to play Kamara so bad. I don't know if we can do it in this lineup. I would say Michael Carter is the correlation play. I don't know if you could stomach that. If not,
I think we go Cook as the correlation as the payout with Vikings D.
okay. Put it in there.
Over Kamara. Similar upsides.
Similar upsides.
Getting a little $500 off.
Little tight on salary already though.
Yeah, we're kind of hurting. I think that Chicago, we can correlate. We don't have to. I think we don't have to play a bear.
I don't think we play a bear because the only viable one in this lineup would be Allen Robinson, and I'm not doing that. And
yeah, absolutely not.
I mean, Komet, if you want to eat that, but he's going to be chalky too.
Yeah, Komet would probably be the play.
I mean, what about like a mini with like Everett and Wesley?
I'd rather go
Everett
Lockett.
and like Lockett and see, we're already tough on salary at this point.
I think we go Lockett, Wesley, or Connor. But Wesley would be because we're pretty contrarian right now, right? With Diggs, Dalvin, Tyler Lockett, Vikings D. So we got some ownership to eat. So we could definitely go with Connor.
I mean, I'm looking at this projection and it has Wesley under 5%. Is that accurate? I thought he was going to have ownership. If Wesley's under 5%, that's easy. Jim him in.
He's just projecting very, very poorly. So I don't know if you want to go that route.
I mean, I didn't love it, but I also thought that the ownership was going to be different than what I'm seeing right now. So, I mean, we can eat the Connor chalk if we can fit it. He is one of my favorites in this range.
We're going to have to do some maneuvering. Is there a fucking punt tight end that we can just...
It's like Brevin Jordan.
Spray and pray.
Spray and pray. What is this, a COD session with you?
Any cheap tight ends, chat?
Who do you guys like?
We could go DeGuara.
We could.
It's like a one-off. He's gonna. No.
It's never gonna happen with Jonnu, right? Min price.
Probably not. No. Is there anybody? Is there any cheap tight end out there that we could just fucking pray?
The best projecting tight end is Brevin Jordan under 3K.
I think we just go Brevin and hope for the fucking best.
It's either Brevin or DeGuara, but I don't hate Brevin. I mean,
Brevin has more upside than DeGuara.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree. He's had 4 targets, 7 targets, 4 targets, couple tutties.
At home in a dome, should be down. Doyle, Mercedes Lewis, Jack Doyle.
What's Doyle's price? We got it twice in the chat. We might as well.
Yeah, I think he was just putting his first name. Where's Jack Doyle?
27, same price. Let's do it. Put him in there. Doesn't have an injury designation.
You'd rather go Brevin over Doyle?
That's what the chat says, and I fucks with the chat.
I think Brevin's a better play.
So do I.
Well, we're going Brevin.
All right. Sorry,
Doyle,
chat.
I mean,
tried.
Doyle is okay, but it's like we're going to get a more favorable game script for Brevin than Doyle.
Correct.
I think. So we go Brevin in this lineup. We can't go AJ, so I guess this would be the Julio if we wanted to, but like we're down bad right now. We are down horrendous.
No, I mean you could play like Wesley and McLeod.
That is disgusting.
This lineup is not good.
It's Josh Allen and Diggs is expensive.
I don't think that you can play Dalvin Cook in the Josh Allen Diggs lineup. I think you got to go down.
Well, I think you got to go down.
I think you got to go down to Carter or Mitchell or Foreman. You know, Foreman is your correlated piece.
Yeah, Gabe Davis. We go the Bills double.
Can we play Davis and Foreman?
We can do whatever you want, Benny.
What does Foreman leave us with? 52?
52.
Pretty sure that's a Jacoby, right?
Jacoby.
Is there anything better? I let in the chat he said go down to Lions D versus Jordan Love. Yeah, I mean that saves us 500, puts us at 5,700 if there's anything you like up there.
Yeah, I don't like Foreman.
Julio? I kind of like a correlated Tennessee piece.
I'd rather jam in AJ if we're trying to jam in a Tennessee player.
But
we really can't fit it.
You can't. Unless you get rid of Lockett. But
unless
Lockett.
We go Carter over Connor with AJ. I don't know. Bro.
I like Connor Lockett over Brevin AJ.
Yeah, Connor Lockett seems like a very good correlated piece.
I think you're playing one of the 5K players. You're either playing Carter as your running back here to correlate with the Bills stuff, or you're playing Julio, which would put you at like Gibson.
Now, yeah, what if we play like just like a Mitchell or Singletary and go from there? Like the pivot, we could pivot. Well, not Singletary, but like what if we did like a Sony type shit or something? Or Eli.
Who's 4,900?
Let's see. Devontae Parker, probably not.
Bateman, probably not.
You know what? It's a milli maker. Fuck it. We got to play Carter in this lineup. We have to.
I like it. I like Carter. And that gives us Ramondre, or if there's a $2,800 defense, it gives us 6K running back of choice.
Yeah, I guess we don't have to play Vikings. We could save some money here. Actually, we could just lock in Vikings. Fuck it. It's good leverage against DMOT. Yeah, 5,900. You could lock in Pittman, Mooney, Stevenson,
Hollywood.
Gibson.
I think my favorite would be Pittman in that group.
Yeah, it's leverage off JT.
It is the highest total game on the slate. We don't have a piece of it yet.
No.
You would, if you're actually running this lineup, you would switch Pittman for Diggs for the the late swap optionality, but
yeah, no,
it's not a bad lineup. Like, it's actually not a bad lineup.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's really contrarian. You know, you're eating a little chalk with Connor and Allen, but Diggs is contrarian, Davis is contrarian, Lockett is super contrarian, Carter's contrarian. Like, all these guys
Could
have
definitely
upside too,
work.
and it's highly correlated.
Yeah, it could definitely work for sure. But
I'm not mad at it.
all right, Millie Maker winner. I mean, it's probably not going to win the Millie, but this is like kind of like the build we like. Josh Allen, Diggs, Lockett, I think we're both on as a ceiling play this week. Diggs, obviously great play. But yeah.
You ain't got to tell me twice about playing Gabe ever.
I think that's it.
I think it is. You know, if you guys are watching this vid on replay, drop a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, join the Discord chat because tomorrow news will be breaking. We'll be in there all morning talking over some of the final decisions as hopefully we get a solid 3K wide receiver that we can jam in and make things fit a little bit better.
Yeah, probably won't, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, just quick little cash rundown for everybody still there. If you're playing cash games, you're probably going Taysom Hill. I think at running back, you're going James Conner. You're going Devin Singletary. And I think you're going maybe JT.
Maybe Demont.
Maybe Sony, one of those guys. Wide receiver, you're probably going Cup. You're going Christian Kirk. You're going a cheapie in A-Rob, Wesley, who else? Laquan Treadwell. We've already said that, we prefer Wesley and Treadwell to Allen Robinson, even though A-Rob is projecting to be one of the highest owned players on the slate. I mean, whatever. I think that's probably the build. And a cheap tight end, cheap D, Browns D, and that's the cash game build.
I think it is. Man. Shout out to everybody who watched the stream. We'll be back tomorrow. Hope you guys are, enjoying. If you're living in New York, hope you guys are enjoying the sports betting market
and all of the free money that they gave out today.
Just dropping bags on us. You love to see it. All right, guys. We'll talk to you on the next.